Hey everybody, welcome back to the Adventure Paradox podcast. Kat here, and I have a guest with me who I met through a friend of a friend through the TEDx community, through TEDx Spokane. If you've been following along, you know we're on this incredible journey of sharing big ideas and talking to folks who are also sharing big ideas and doing really big work in this world. So today we have Gloria Lybecker. Gloria, I love knowing where in the world you live, and your town is called Medical Lake. Can you just speak on that for a moment before I introduce you?
Sure, my understanding is that there have been medicinal qualities in the earth, specifically in the lake, that people would travel for miles to come and sit in that mud just because of the sport it would give to their body.
Wow, that is so cool. And I know it's a suburb of Spokane, but just the name alone, like you had me at Medical Lake. I love it. A little bit more about you. You are a transformational facilitator, trauma-informed coach, and founder of Healing You Sanctuary. By the way, guys, she also has a podcast, The Healing You Method. She has over 25 years of experience, and she guides spiritually curious women through deep inner work using neuroscience, somatic awareness, and energy medicine.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, my first question for you, because I know you have a retreat and you do some work with horses. This next offering here, these intimate constellations with horses retreats, what is that? Can you tell me what it is and like where did it come from? The download, this title is so juicy.
Mm.
Constellations with horses, retreats for women. Like tell me more.
Well, I've been trained by a couple of different experts, I guess, in the field of constellation work. And Bert Hellinger is the one who actually is the founder of family constellations or systemic constellations. People can check that out. And each facilitator, as they go through and have their own experience, we each come with our own frequency of vibration that we are going to then introduce the work to the place we're called. And for me, that's with horses, because horses have always been central to my life and into the field of my life.
Mm.
But with constellation work, there's a designated field, and it's an energetic field that represents the person's life or their question, and they're called the seeker. So they're seeking this answer, but they're seeking it from their own field of wisdom.
Mm.
So for me, it was a beautiful dovetail of my partnership with my herd and just preparing the space there and inviting just small groups of women to come gather together with their questions. And they step into the field then with the horses, and I facilitate that with them actually resourcing and
Mm.
recognizing the patterns the horses are revealing to them. And in many, or I would say all experiences, the horses transport people to that place that's between worlds.
Mm.
So that what was unknown becomes known.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I'd love to hear more about your origin story with horses. You said it's always been a part of you.
Yeah.
Where and how and when did it begin for you, this connection with horses?
Well, when I was just a really little girl, there's pictures of me that I'm under 2 years old and I'm sitting on the back of a horse with my cousin that's giving me a ride, right? So it's like always attracted. My first horse was a little Shetland pony named Trixie, and there was a picture of me standing by her, and that, I just pet her, but I didn't really do much with her at that point, other than just the thing was about being in relationship.
Mhm.
As I got older and my parents moved to the Great Northwest out in Washington, my grandpa's cousin asked my parents if he could bring a horse out. So that brought horses back into my life in a different way. And
Mm.
I got to name her. I named her Beauty. And so she's the one I learned how to ride. I learned how to groom. I learned how to be in a parade, all those fun things of being a small child and going through adolescence. And the thing that she did for me is when I went through some really pretty heavy trauma at 14, she stayed with me. She was my best friend and relationship, and I could get on her and just go and fly for hours and be gone. And I didn't realize at the time all that she actually gifted me with, or
Mm.
still gifts me with, because I still have that connection with my heart and her heart. And as I became an advanced facilitator with the horses, I learned so much that I didn't know, but I knew from within.
Yeah.
And so the horses were always a calling to come back to them when I lost being able to have her with me three different times, which to me that was very profound too, the number three. And then I realized that she's never left me. But my husband is the one that has graced me with the ability to have my herd, and he's a master carpenter, and so he's created the whole sanctuary for me to be able to be about the life's work that calls me.
Mm,
So, yeah, this
okay.
horse is, being with a horse because I was so close to my horse. When we're close to them, Heart Math Institute gives so much great information about what happens between a horse and a human that, being in their field of energy was just calming and healing for my body.
Absolutely. And I love that you can see the lifetime connection of them coming in and out of your life. And it sounds like you had a family with some connections with horses, your cousin and your uncle, and I think folks where, and we've got to think about generationally, 1922 was the year we had more cars than horses on most major cities around the world. That was not that long ago. So we
Mm,
have lost this connection to horses really not that long ago. Great great grandparents for sure were connected to horses in their
mhm,
daily life. But more and more people are not connected to horses. And so to speak to someone,
mhm,
I had a similar journey, starting with Grandmother's Week and spending time with my grandmother and watching her with horses 1 week a year growing up and always wanting them and finding them and the closest ones we could find and learning to ride and all of that. And there are fewer and fewer horses in many places, especially in those major cities. They're getting squeezed out, and people are very far from horses. But I feel like there's this huge shift and awakening happening right now where horses are being called back and people are drawn to them for therapeutic purpose. And the work of heart math is like incredible to really
mhm,
pinpoint some of the things that are happening. But you
mhm,
shared in your own story of trauma at age 14 with beauty that there was something going on there and maybe you didn't understand it till later. Would you be
mhm.
comfortable sharing a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah, well, the horses, the way that their nervous system is created, their amygdala, I go to the brain in the palm of the hand. You're familiar with that? That
Mm.
that's from Daniel Siegel, and he coined it. And so the brain in the palm of the hand, the palm of your hand and your wrist or the brainstem. Your thumb coming across is the limbic system, which is the emotional alarm system. And then your fingers coming across over that, that's your prefrontal cortex. The middle two fingers anatomically is the middle prefrontal cortex, and it will connect all of them together. So
Mm.
that's where when you're really fully present, this is really anchored and connected. That's the grounding, like we did before the call. And when we get triggered by something,
Yeah.
there's three systems. The newest system goes offline, the second system takes over, and that's our fight, flight, and it can go into freeze if we don't have an escape route or we can't fight our way out. We'll go into the third system, which is that immobilization, and our body starts just desensitizing us so we won't feel the pain of death. So it's
Mhm.
a survival activation. So when we can be held in a process, especially in my experience with the horses, they exponentially magnify the energetic frequencies of healing because their amygdala, it is larger and it actually is representative of someone that's had trauma. So they're going to sync up with them really easily and
Mm.
they'll reflect back and offer that presence. And it's astonishing just to witness the visceral changes that take place in both horse and human as they join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were riding your horse free to essentially enter a different state and process this trauma, is that what you were then reflecting on with what was going on with your brain?
Well, what I did with my horse is I would be able to escape what felt like the survival
Mhm.
patterns and I could go be free in nature. And what I would do with my horse, I would just lay on her back and I'd let her go wherever she wanted. And we just were in Wonderland together. And I just would dream really big dreams of what it'd look like when I could get out on my own. And it
Mm.
always was with land and horses for sure. Later, I realized that because I spent so much time with her, I had experienced a lot of trauma, but I wasn't so traumatized that I was so stuck. I was still able to take some action steps to go towards those big dreams I had with beauty.
Mm.
So I can just see how that resonant field in with her, this totally nonverbal that doesn't get stuck in the story, but really does magnify those dreams that are totally possible that we don't need. I mean, for me to be having this talk with you is living proof right there that you don't need to be stuck in your trauma.
Yeah, so true. So true. This has me thinking about a couple of different things. One thing for our horse listeners that does come up when you're working with folks who have maybe had a traumatic experience even with a horse.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about working through that in your work? What have you seen?
Well, that's happened several times. And so many times it happens outside of the space,
Mhm.
outside of either the round pen or the picadero, whatever the designated space is. And we go with the person's body. It's
Mm,
really important to have accompaniment with your visceral experience. And many people have not developed a language for their sensations or developed a language even for their emotions or their values or needs. But those are all interconnected. But they may be very unconscious, depending on the environment that you grew up in or that you had experienced trauma in. And so my practice is very, very body centered, very somatic. And so we start right there. And we just start to develop and notice what are the sensations, what is the emotional flavor of what's coming up, and what might those thought clouds be. And just recognizing if your body was saying something to you, what is it? And first thing that pops in, just to start to resource. And when we're doing this, I'm also paying attention to the field with the horses and what patterns are they representing? What actions are they taking? How are they moving their ears, their tails? Every single thing they do is communication.
totally.
And so then we just move through that. And the person may, I mean, they'll have their shifts, but we follow where they are. There's no required things to do. I
Mhm.
don't have an outcome agenda. I'm there to be in service of their process, whatever that needs to look like for them. And through that, those next steps become apparent, they become obvious.
Mhm. Now, I'm familiar with this experience of being in a herd and doing the work that you're talking about. But for someone who maybe has never seen or experienced or witnessed this kind of work, can you introduce us to your herd a little bit more? Who are they? What are some of the dynamics you see in terms of their gifts as teachers doing this work in the field with you?
Yeah, my herd has changed over the years, and yet they each had their own story in coming to me. So Saphira she is my heart horse. She passed just this last spring. And
Oh.
she was 33 when she passed, but she was with me for 15 years. She was a horse rescue. Big, big, beautiful thoroughbred. It was like 17.2,
Mm,
big bay. And she came, she had had her trauma from being in a kill pen. And so I just would sit out in the field with her and just be with her.
hmm
And eventually she would come and we would get to connect. And she became the real lead mare. And she made it very apparent when she was going to work with somebody. And so many times, depending on how it's the container's set up, there's a meet and greet where the person comes out and gets to kind of walk through and meet the herd and notice what happens for them. And two
hmm
different, and then a body scan and doing it again. And when was gonna work with somebody, she would block the other horses. She would get her body in front and she would stay there and she would really yawn and lick and chew,
hmm
snort, paw. And if she wasn't going to work with somebody, she'd go back in the back and almost
Yeah.
do their best to be invisible. So the horses would already be communicating. When people are coming, I encourage them to actually the night before just to tune into the field, to notice what they notice, see who appears to them, if any, and there's no agenda there. And then when they come, they get to meet and greet in this way, and it becomes obvious who's doing the connecting. And
Mm,
so the horses, they, when they're here and they're just free and at liberty, they have their own relationships. And when they step into the knowing field, I know they've stepped into something because they don't show up like they normally do. They will step into the energy that they are representing. And that's been astonishing to witness. There was, I could share a little story. There was
please.
one lady that came and she was had gone through and gotten her degree and what she was going to do, and then she got that hot job and she stepped into the work and she's like, "What have I done?" And she called and she says, I'm in an emergency and I really need to have a session with a herd." So we put it together, and when she came out, when she stepped into the field, what they represented to her, I'd never seen before. The whole herd ran in circles around her. Let's see, they ran in circles to the left, just running, running, running. And then they stopped, licked and chewed, and then they ran the other way. And,
Mm,
checking in, what this represented to her, she was able to see how they were unwinding these choices, making it obvious what they were unwinding in her life. And then they also represented the direction she was to go. And where she was to go is she went down south out of Arizona and she started working with the horses down there where she had left to go do this other thing. But that was an expansive experience of all the details that took place. But my horses had never done that before and they've never done that since. So it's a
mm.
representation of how they truly do reflect the individual soul that's coming to be held in that sacred container.
That's a powerful story. I'm like right there watching them circling and then rewinding, you know?
Well,
Um,
your hair is standing on end and goosebumps are everywhere because that energy was just really magnificent. Yeah,
yeah.
very charged.
I think so much of working with horses and really good life coaching work is working on energy. I know you're an energy medicine healer. Will you tell us a little bit more about some strategies, some favorite practices you have to work on
Mm.
someone's energy? Because I'm sure you've had folks come in where horses have been like, ah, this person's energy, before they even want to engage.
Well, I highly recommend Donna Eden's energy medicine. She has a daily practice. And so that's something that I will use as a tool. She has a free PDF download that you can use, and I highly recommend her work. So that's what I follow, and that's my background of education. And there's many times someone will come and words are overrated. We just start doing the energy routine, or we
Mm,
begin tracing the meridians. It can be equally a way to optimize. There are some newer tools with technology that are very profound and powerful. And I'm also advanced facilitator with some different listening systems that's frequency with music
mm,
that are gated and conducted specifically for different reasons. And I found that work because of my children. My youngest had some out of the box showing up ways that I wasn't going to follow what how do I want to say that? What most psychotherapists or clinicians would want me to do. I'm like, that's not relational to me. I'm not doing that with my child. So that's where I actually found energy medicine. I found these different tools to use that allow you to stay in relationship and allow resource from nature. And
mm,
music is healing. It is so healing. And so I became an advanced facilitator so I could have access to the materials and the resources to use for my child. And so then, of course, I use it with my clients. And so there's the Safe and Sound protocol that Stephen Porges actually created, and he joined with what's now it was integrated listening systems. And it's a 5-day protocol that I would encourage people to work with a practitioner because if you have trauma, it's going to bubble it up, and you need to have somebody that's there to accompany you.
mhm.
And I've used it myself many times, and I've used it with my child, and I've used it with a lot of clients. and it allows your vagus nerve, your sense of self, your essence to really strengthen, and it
Mm.
calms and soothes the fight and flight, so where you can be present and in choice. And it's radically powerful. There's another system that's called the Solex. That's Solex. And it also is a very powerful program. And it has a lot of energy medicine in it. And it will scan your voice and it'll scan your body. And there's quite a few in the holistic realm, naturopaths and homeopaths, and functional medicine doctors and chiropractors and veterinarians and that utilize this in their practices. And so I appreciate being a part of their mastermind. When I have questions, they know answers I don't. But where you can have your voice scanned, and then it gives you these healing frequencies that you can listen to several times throughout the day. And there's been some profound shifts too. So that's one of the things I include in my online courses is the inner voice scan for people because it really supports them to be able to integrate these transformations more fully, more quickly.
So powerful. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a tool that I use when I'm supporting people starting a podcast to like
Mm,
really hear themselves and find their voice and listen to what is the message that's coming through. And
yeah.
I think like the amount of programming that comes out energetically, I heard a really interesting, I did an interview with a gal and she shared this with me. She said that the vibration of authenticity is 400 times greater than the vibration of love. And I've been thinking about
Yeah.
that quite a bit, especially in relation to horses, because a very classic one would be someone, oh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited to meet the horse, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. And then when they show up, the authentic energy is actually, I'm terrified, like I'm afraid, like I'm shaking, you know? And so that's been something I've been looking at because folks who might just have such incredibly deep love for the idea of horses when they're actually, in their energetic field, they don't have an understanding of how to even be with them, right? Because maybe they don't know how to be with themselves, is something that I've been looking at a bit.
Yeah, well, in my experience with that is many times for most of us, we have some kind of unconscious trauma bubble that's surfaced that we didn't realize was even going to surface, but when we get around that big energy body, it comes up.
Yeah.
And so that's important, again, to be able to have a trusted space that can recognize these patterns in order to keep the container, what Stephen Porges calls the neuroception of safety. So that's the level of safety that your body just feels. It's not
Mm,
a knowing of the brain. It's a neuroception of safety. And when you feel that, you relax. Your whole body can relax.
mm,
And then so there's no judgment in it. Just because, you're so excited, and then all of a sudden you just go like deer in the headlights. It's like, oh, okay, the body's talking. Let's be with it for a while. Let's just sit here. Let's not push it. Let's not pull
sure,
it and try and fix it or do anything to it. And
sure.
that right there can start to dissolve the trauma tangle.
Yeah, yeah. One I have witnessed working with clients is just the flood works, like the immediate, oh, wow, like this is horse energy. And like, yeah. And that may be a normal response for a lot of people who have never been
Yeah.
in the presence of a horse who's here to heal. So,
Well, and part of that practice, I think, is in my experience that they are able to be vulnerable and
mm,
transparent about what's really happening for them and not be judged in that. And that's a new experience for many.
yeah, yeah.
And so when that happens, then they get to actually find their voice in a new way. They get to recognize what they would really love,
Mm,
and they get to experiment with taking steps towards that.
yeah.
And then they get to notice too how the horse reflects that to them. When they start to name that authentically, the
Mhm.
horse is going to have immediate communication in response to that.
Totally. Yeah, it's powerful work. Let's go back to beauty for a minute.
Yeah.
You said beauty came in and out of your life 3 times, I think, and that
Yeah.
now you're still connected. I'm not sure. Is she on the other side now?
Oh yes. I mean, because I was just, what was I, maybe 10 or something when she came into my life. So I'm 67 now. So she would be really old.
Right, right. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just curious because the average horse has 7 owners. And so I'm
Wow.
curious, what was the story of her coming and going? And then this is, I think, a really important space that a lot of people who are called to work with horses and work with people with animals is continuing to connect with a heart horse or beloved who has crossed over. And although they're no longer here in the physical plane, we are still connected to them on the spiritual plane. Can you
Yeah.
say more about that and also just tell us a bit more about her story of how she came in and out of your life?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of part of it's funny because it's unexpected. But when I was a senior in high school, she was still at her place. And my parents joined the circus. And that was like, okay, my senior year, I didn't have a choice. I got to go. And I got to do cotton candy. But when we came back, Beauty was now gone because they took her to go be with someone else where someone be relational with her. And so then I had an opportunity for her to come back when I was older and I was in my 20s and I wanted to be able to have her and I was trying to find a place. I was a single mom and I just couldn't get it put together. So I had the opportunity, but I just didn't know how to make it all work.
Yeah.
And then the third time was when I was in my second marriage. Then Bill, who is the my grandpa's cousin, so he's my second cousin, he had looked me up and found me, and he came because she was an older horse, and he wanted her to be able to be reunited with me because he got her when she was like 2 or 3, and so he did all the training, and we learned with her. And then I got to be with her the most. And then he let another cousin's child be with her. And then he wanted her to come back to me. And my husband at the time refused, would not allow it. And so
Mm,
he was going to give me all the tack and the trailer and absolutely everything. And at that time, I didn't know how to have my voice in that way.
mm,
And so it was actually with my hard horse Saphira, who there's been 3 different mayors that have, again, 3 that have
mm,
really been profound in my life. And that was Beauty, and then there was Star, and then there was Saphira. And Saphira has really, really been the one I've learned to lean on the most and actually stepped into the work with.
mm,
When I was doing as a counselor, was doing that with Star and with her. But the horses, they don't talk like us humans do. It's very visceral and it's very, I don't know, when there's this huge creature, even I have minis, when these little ones they come up, there's just this way that they are, that there's just this trust that's profound and it's the bedrock of the relationship.
mm,
And it's so huge. My granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, back in 2019, she passed away from cancer. And it took her very quickly, like in 9 months. And the sad thing was that there'd been a rift in the family to where I hadn't gotten to see her for years.
mm,
And then 3 years later, her younger brother, Isaac, my grandson, took his life. He
mm,
just had such a tough time. And that was just in January of 22.
mm.
And my world pretty much stopped. And so I spent a lot of time with Saphira and Finn and Aragon, my herd. And I took everything down off my website and I said, okay, show me what's most important here.
Yeah.
And it's the work that I now provide. And I told my story. I told my story about when I was 14. I stepped into the field with horses and I wrote a chapter co-authored in a book in order to tell my story publicly. And even going through that, I would go out with the horses and I'd tell my story on a device and then I would use a transcription service to put it into a format, then I can edit it. But to find a way that worked for me to have a voice and tell my story and going out and being with my herd, that's where I would find that flow,
Mm,
that authenticity that you speak of, that has the courage to tell the truth no matter what. And for me, it's really important to tell it with grace. It's not about blaming anyone or shaming anyone. It's about no claiming what is your birthright.
Mm,
And that's what this work is all about. It's not even work, what this play is all about. It's what this life energy is all about.
mhm,
And supporting people to step into their authentic voice, to step into their truth and their purpose,
mm,
their true nature of who they were created to be. And
mhm.
that's is what I'm seeing is happening. And there's a ripple effect that's happening where people are awakening to that truth and finding one another to be in community. Because when we're in a community, then we're co-creating what I'd like to call a herd, right? It's shifting the world.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's such a mirror, looking at this work and then looking at ourselves. And for those who aren't watching this on video, the book you just held up that you have a chapter in is called Cracking the Rich Code. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
What was your experience of sharing your voice in writing and, doing the work of being like, okay, it's ready, hit publish, I release this. What was that like for you, Gloria?
Well, going through the process of it, I actually had several more layers of deepening into my own healing
Yeah.
because I had terror deep inside of me that I hadn't discovered yet.
Mm,
I was breaking these unconscious contracts that I'd made when I was really little. And
mhm,
so there was all these layers and what I experienced by speaking the truth is profound freedom
mm,
of really being able to let go of what other people think, say, or do and step into, well, this is my truth and I have solid ground beneath me and this is why I'm here.
yeah.
And again, it was just so profound. And then I also have given some talks and shared it publicly. And that again, where it was another layer. You can put it in writing, but then when you stand in front of others and you speak it and put together a presentation that gives pictures and life to it,
Yeah.
important thing was I had so many people come up afterward and they're like, oh, I had a similar experience. So it makes it a safe place to talk about it and to know
Hmm.
there's someone that's going to get you,
Hmm.
make you
Hmm.
feel felt, and that there is a path that you can take and that you don't have to take it alone.
Yeah, for sure. So good. Okay, as we're wrapping up here, I feel like I have one last question percolating from our conversation. And it sounds like there's a love story here because you talk about a first husband and then you also talk about a second, I don't know if he's your second husband, but maybe current husband who is a carpenter and has helped build this beautiful vision of this work that you're doing. Would you
Oh,
share
yeah.
with us a little bit about maybe your partnership and your human relationships and building a family
Yeah.
alongside doing this work with your horse family?
Well, I'm a proud mother of six children, five who are still with us.
Oh.
And so I had two sons when I was very young, and that marriage didn't survive 5 years.
Mm,
And then I was a single mom for quite a while. And then I was remarried and have two daughters, so I'm very proud of. There was about 10 years between the two boys and the two girls.
mhm,
And that was not a healthy marriage. And I have no wish for harm. And I'm just grateful for my daughters that I have. And when I was able to step out of that relationship, because I know that in my experience, God does not condone any type of abuse. And so
mm,
that's where I started really on my path to reclaiming my voice.
mhm.
And then my husband, Richard, is the man that wouldn't leave. He's like, he just has brought so much joy. He said I was his destiny when we'd first met. And I'm like, oh, come on, don't you have a better line than that, right? But no, he says it's the truth. And so he's just always had such a huge heart. And he is the one that he actually brought my family together. He's the glue. My big
Mm,
boys didn't like him at first. Oh, he's too nice. And then they go, well, he is. He is. And they claim him as their dad. And my girls, they love him as a dad too. They have relationship with their birth dad. And then we lost our first child, and then we have our son. And the beauty of it is that he has just been so available. He's the one that brought horses back into our lives,
mm,
specifically for my girls, because they were struggling so much when they were just little. They were like 7 and 9 at the time. And so we got to bring horses back in, and that's where I went into counselor training and I started doing the work because I realized I had a gift to do the coaching with the horses because I could see the relationship between my daughters and their horses. And so that opened up the whole new world. And it just keeps growing because my husband, even though he's allergic to hay, he's coming tomorrow to go get more of it for me. And he's not just a carpenter, he's a master builder. So he's a contractor and he's making me a timber frame that's just knocked dead gorgeous that I'm so excited to host my retreats from.
Oh, awesome. Oh my gosh. Like, I love a good love story, and that one did not disappoint. And of course, there were three men, back to your power of
Oh,
three.
three.
I'm tracking you, Gloria. I
You
got you.
are.
Okay, so yeah, we're wrapping up here. We could keep going on and on. I'm sorry we don't have more time, but let's make sure, and this will all be in the show notes, everybody, but let's just make sure folks know. I know you have this 12-week online course coming up. You've got some constellation with horses retreats. I don't know if you want to share any of the dates or any more details about those, but and this will all be in the show notes. How can people find you and this work that you're offering right now?
Yeah. Well, my website is glorialybecker.com and Gloria Lybecker coaching also. And the Constellation retreat is going to be the end of August, August 22nd to 24th. And it's going to be a real premium, very fun, intimate experience for the ladies that come. I'm really looking forward to that. And the Mastering Choices course is 12 weeks long, so it's a little bit of a deeper dive into really being able to recognize what your patterns are, being able to begin to tease apart those entanglements, develop some different energetic tools, and some really profound strengthened relationships with some other ladies. There's something so amazing and magical about sharing your journey with others, where you start to recognize yourself in them and they recognize themselves in you, and you start those enduring communities. And that will start in September. So that now is open for enrollment. And they are limited to 6 in each cohort. So
Wow,
it really makes a safe container.
I love it. So good. All right. Any last things you want to share with our listeners? You have been such a gift to talk to, and I'm so grateful for everything you shared.
Well, the one message that I hope to offer is that for people to really know that their voice matters and that their grief is sacred and
Mm.
that the places where you might feel the most broken might be the places where your light is really waiting to just rise and shine,
Mm.
my experience.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. That was a mic drop. We'll say. Hats off. We'll end there. Thank you so much, Gloria Lybecker, and thank you, listeners. We will see you again next week. God
Thank
bless.
you.